You find a job ad and you're excited because hi, thank you for inviting me to an interview. I've been dreaming about this job since I was an embryo. Well, yeah, nobody says that. But you need to pay the bills, feed the pets and kids, you want to have Starbucks, you gotta pay the rent or mortgage, and you want at least one holiday a year. So here's the big question. How can you ensure that your resume stands out and you get invited to an interview? The answer is by creating an attention-grabbing resume. That's how. This video was one of the most requested videos on my channel. I really wanted to give you something that is not just a regurgitated information that you could find in another design YouTube channel. These are valuable as well, so you go ahead and watch those. But I would like to give you something different. I can give you my unique perspective. Because before becoming a designer, one of my odd jobs was being a headhunter in Ireland for a recruitment firm. Yeah. And I learned a lot about resumes. So in this video, I am going to share with you tips and tricks that will get you through ATS, applicant tracking system, and by the end you will be able to design your resume that will catch recruiters and hiring managers' eye. Also, I packaged everything that I know in a digital product that you can download from Gumroad now. How to structure your resume. There are must-have sections that a resume needs to include. The standard sections are your name, your contact details, link to your portfolio, a professional summary, career highlight, a snapshot of your experience, whatever you want to call it, your work experience, or if this is your first job, then your personal projects, your education, and your skill set. And there is this last one, additional details that you can or you might want to include in your resume is link to your social profiles, including LinkedIn, your visa status, if it makes sense to include in a job application. So let's say you are applying for a position in New Zealand and you have a work visa, then include that in your resume with the expiration date. And the one last thing that I wanted to say that is a profile picture. This is a very cultural thing. So you just need to know your market, the culture the job is in. I actually learned that in Ireland. Whenever I apply for an Irish job, then I had to remove my profile picture from my resume. Because in Hungary, we do include a profile image with our resume. However, in other Anglo-Saxon countries, I worked Ireland, New Zealand, Canada, no profile picture. So that's a no-no. It's culturally just not that appropriate to include a profile image with your resume. So do your research, because I know some cultures, they do require a profile image with your resume. So do your homework. So now let's do a resume review. I intentionally made this a little bit bad so that we can learn from it. So we're gonna go through section by section and see what works and see what does not work. Let's say Pedro is going to apply for a product designer position. Let's just have a look at the first section. What's wrong with this? We talked about the profile image, right? I mentioned that earlier. In some cultures, profile image is appropriate. Let's say this person is applying for a role in Canada. I would definitely remove this. So get rid of the profile image. Pedro is applying for a product designer position. What's wrong with this? That he identifies himself as a graphic designer. If you are a graphic designer and applying for a product designer position, you need to identify yourself as a product designer, because recruiters, hiring managers, they're just going to close this resume once they see that, oh, this person is a graphic designer. They don't even bother going through your resume. So match the job titles, okay? The other thing is we have contact details here. We have a phone number, which is great. We have a professional email address, which is super important. So if your email address is unprofessional, says something like toysforme@gmail.com, whatever, then just change it. It takes 2 minutes to create a new professional email address. So then people can take you seriously. But for Pedro, this is actually good. And then we have a link here, pedrofernandezdesigns.com, which is okay. And then we have this, which is @pedrofern, indicating that we can find Pedro on social media with this handle. And my assumption is when I click this, pedrofernandezdesigns.com, it will lead to his website, and then I will be able to find his portfolio. The other good idea would be to add a portfolio portfolio link, a direct portfolio link here, so that recruiters, hiring managers, they don't need to find the section on your website when you go there. That would be the easiest fix here. But other than that, everything is here, and that is great. We are moving on to the second section, which is experience. Now, Pedro says he was a junior web designer for 5 years, which is a little bit unbelievable if you think about it. Like, why would you be a junior designer for 5 years? So it doesn't really show career progression here. So jumping from junior web designer, after 5 years, he jumped to a senior web designer role, and then he stayed there for 4 years. And from 2018, he became a senior design manager. So it would be a really good idea to include progression. So when you got the promotion, because it's not believable that you stayed at junior level for 5 years. The other thing that I would suggest here, we should have reverse chronological order. It means we should start with the most recent jobs we have. So Pedro should say senior design manager on top from 2018 to 2021, and then going backwards. So this section could use a little bit of work regarding the visuals. See how 2009, 2014, the date take up such a big space here, while the role, the job title, and the company and what this person did in a position just takes up twice as big space as the date. So I would just move the job title and the company to the left, and then display the date on the right side, and have a bulleted list explaining the responsibilities, tasks, and project that this person was involved in. It's always great to create bulleted lists because it leads people's eyes. It's easier to read, more legible, easier to digest the information than just a big block of text paragraph. Moving on to About Me section. You know how I mentioned that this could be your career highlights, accomplishments, professional summary, or how Pedro calls this section, About Me. Let's start with the pros. The length of the section is pretty good. It's a couple of sentences, which is great. He could use bulleted list here instead of a block of text. You gotta be sure that you proofread your sentences, whatever you write here. So let's see what he says. I am a professional website designer, an engaging manager position, da 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 da. So that is okay. However, he made a few mistakes here. He did not proofread this section. This should be I am. Either use a contraction, so I'm, or put a space in between I am. And there is another grammar mistake here. This shows lack of attention to details. The last punctuation should be removed. And the other thing, and that is more of like a visual thing, see that how we have smaller white spaces between these words, and here we have larger white spaces between the words. This is a very simple and very easy fix. He should have aligned this whole text to the left instead of using justify. Education. There's not many problems with the education section, but what I would do, again, I would reverse the order of the universities, colleges. So I would start with an MA in social science, then I would place Bachelor of Design after the MA. When you're applying for a junior, intermediate design position, it might be useful to display the date when you finish your education. However, as you progress in your career, this becomes less and less important. So in my resume, I don't even include when I finished my education. It can create bias as well. So as a junior, yes, it is important. As you progress further in your career, less important when you finished your education. So just think about that when you design this part of your resume. Okay, the next section is Follow Me. I would certainly remove most part of it. The reason is he says that he can be found in all social media platforms using this handle. So this is just kind of a waste of space here. I would move the LinkedIn part to the top, to this section, and remove the rest. Now this other section, I always kind of cringe when I see something like this. So where a person puts certain tools here and then they rate themselves on a scale. So what does it really say? This person can use Photoshop on a scale of 1 to 6. This is like an intermediate level or not that great level of using Photoshop. It's absolutely not important. Nowadays, people, hiring managers, recruiters, they just expect us to be able to use their toolkit, whatever that might be. This, again, such a waste of space. Pedro could have used this section to explain the experience a little bit more in detail instead of wasting this big real estate on Follow Me and professional tool set. The same comment goes for the personal section as well. It's not that important. If you want to explain your teamwork and innovation skills, then you gotta explain that in the highlight section in your professional summary. The last part is reference. So this person who has many years, more than 10 years of experience, included 2 references. When it comes to resumes, this is such a waste of space. You don't need to include references with your resume. Most companies use a third-party application to collect your references. It should be removed completely. But you might ask, is there any value of adding references upfront? I believe if you are a junior designer and then you have not worked, then you might want to provide character references. Maybe a couple of teachers who can say nice things about you and how hardworking you are, what you accomplished at school. But when this is not your first job, remove it completely. To grab hiring managers and recruiters' attention with your resume, you must include action verbs in your resume. What are the action verbs? Well, there is a list that I also added to the package, so make sure you download that. It is free for a few days after releasing this video, and after that, it only costs a coffee for you. It's also free with my newsletter subscription, so make sure you subscribe to that. There are different types of action verbs. The first one is accomplishment-driven action verbs. What are those? Achieved, attained, completed, convinced, doubled, eliminated, expanded, etc. The second group of action verbs are the ones that describe process improvement. What are those? You might say, I solved, transformed, unified, implemented, modernized, recommended, verbs like that. And the last one is executive related action verbs. So that might be that important for you if you're just starting out and you're applying for a junior position. However, as you progress further in your career, then you need to include some of these verbs in your resume as well. And the executive related action verbs are produced, organized, prioritized, executed, managed, mentored, guided, verbs like that. There is a formula you can apply in your resume to show your skills and what you accomplished at certain companies. I call this formula ATM, action, task, metric. Let me show you an example. I'm using colors to indicate which section is which. So the example is, I designed. So you start with an action verb. You designed, you did something, and then you add the task or the project included. A new user interface for company homepage using Figma. And then you move on to the last part, which is the metric or result, leading to a 37% higher click-through rate in the next quarter after launch. Next, we need to talk about LinkedIn. If you want to have a job, then on LinkedIn, don't be cutesy and don't write BS. Sorry, but this is BS. Don't write BS like this. I help companies increase profit by crafting interfaces that encompass users' needs and business goals. That's a big no. There is only one good reason when this is an acceptable LinkedIn headline. Only when you are an executive and you are headhunted for roles. But when you apply for positions, then you want to optimize your LinkedIn and your headline, because the LinkedIn headline is a marketing tool. So you need to optimize it for SEO, search engine optimization. So you need to optimize it with keywords. So if you are applying for a product designer position, instead of saying, I help blah, 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 no, don't do that. You gotta put product designer there. Product designer, UX designer, user research, these kind of keywords that recruiters and hiring managers looking for. So when it comes to LinkedIn, customize your LinkedIn headline for SEO and personal branding, how you want people to perceive you on LinkedIn, on the internet. And if you do that really well, then you are going to increase your ranking in LinkedIn as well. So whenever a recruiter is looking for a product designer, then you will end up higher up in search because you rank higher because of the SEO that you implemented on your profile. The other thing that you can include in your headline is, beside your job title, is the industry that you want to work in or you are working working in your specialty. And I would recommend using all of the characters that LinkedIn allows you to use. And as I said, don't be cutesy. Try to avoid emojis when it comes to LinkedIn headlines. Think about LinkedIn as your resume extension. So you need to optimize this as well for your job search. What you can do here is you come to LinkedIn, you come to your profile, and then you gotta edit this, okay? So you gotta find this place, open to, you click that. When you're looking for a new job, then you want to make yourself available. So you want to let recruiters know that you are available to work. So you click that, finding a new job. This is where you can specify the jobs that you're looking for. So I am going to click this. Sometimes LinkedIn is a little bit odd in terms of user experience design. So let's say I'm going to say UX lead, okay. And then we saw that there is user experience lead here as well, UX manager position, yes. You can only add 5 job titles here. You can add digital designer, product designer, visual designer, whatever job title you're looking for. And then you select the workplaces. So you can select if you would like to work on-site or hybrid or remote. And then you can customize the job locations. Or I want to work in Toronto, Ontario. I might be able to work in Ottawa as well. Again, there's a limit, so you can add 5 locations here. And then you can specify the start date if you're looking for something immediately. So you can say that you're actively applying or you are flexible and you're casually browsing. And then you can specify the job type that you're looking for, contract, full-time, part-time, or just a temporary position. And then the last section is you can specify who can see that you're open. So you click that. So if you select the first option, which is you allow everyone to see that you're open to work, then you will have this little green ribbon on your profile picture. Or you can specify this is recruiters only. If I don't have a job, like I am actively looking, then I would choose the first one so that everyone in my network is aware that I am looking for a position, because you never know who might know something. If I actually want to keep it a secret and I don't want my current company to know I am looking for a position, then I would just click that. So then only people using LinkedIn Recruiter will be able to see this. And finally, you just click this button, add to profile, and you are all set. When it comes to LinkedIn, you gotta make sure that you have customized URL. I do have that, but by default, it actually adds some random numbers in the end. So you gotta make sure that you customize your URL on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is such a great tool. It can let you easily apply for positions advertised on LinkedIn. So make sure you don't miss out on it. Okay, now let's talk about cover letters. Some people do not write cover letters. I'm not sure which bucket you're in. Are you writing cover letters? You don't write cover letters for each position you apply for. Some people just don't. I always write cover letters. If there's an option to submit a cover letter, I always do. I got my interview at Oracle in 2016 because I wrote an impressive cover letter. That's what the recruiter told me. So it's not a waste of time. It just gives us another opportunity to explain why we are the best candidate for the position. Applying for jobs is essentially a full-time job. There is no question about that. And I know writing a customized cover letter for each position, that takes a lot of time. And who has that much time? So I get it. I totally get it. But if you want to find a great position, then you want to do whatever you can to get that job, right? So about the cover letter, you don't need to go overboard with it, okay? The length of a cover letter should be less than a page. And beside the standard greeting and closing part, you should include a few paragraphs, focusing on the skills you possess and the skills that the company is looking for. So it's super important, it's so critical that you match keywords. You review the job description and then you repeat the keywords in your cover letter. So you gotta consult with the job description. I give you an example. Let's say you are applying for an intermediate design role in a platform design team. A paragraph in your cover letter might look like this. During my time at Twitter as a junior product designer, I successfully created over 50 responsive UI components using Figma that were used by multiple teams, which increased teams' efficiency and productivity. Use the formula that we discussed earlier, the action, task, and and metric, you can easily apply that formula in your cover letter too. If you can add a percentage to the impact, that is wonderful. For example, increased revenue by 12%, and it's getting more and more important as you progress in your career. As a junior designer, it's not that important because nobody expects you to have that kind of impact yet. The point is, quantifying the impact of the design is ideal. However, if you cannot do that as a junior, that's okay. So cover letter is another chance for you to shine and show your skill set. Okay, let's just recap this whole video and all of this information that we just discussed. The first, that you gotta remember that you need to match your resume with the job description. Most companies, especially larger companies, they use some kind of applicant tracking system, ATS. Workday, Taleo, those are just a couple, but there are many other applicant tracking systems. Companies use ATS because it helps the hiring process, because sometimes companies get hundreds of job applications for each job advertisement. So no one has the time to go through each of them one by one. ATS help recruiters and hiring managers shortlist candidates, the right candidates. So it's super important that you rank high and then you pass the ATS so then an actual human can take a look at your resume. And they only spend maybe 20-30 seconds with your resume. So make sure you shine. Make sure your skill set and accomplishment are clear and concise. So make sure your skills and accomplishment are explained well. So the first hurdle is pass ATS and have someone to review your resume. And the other thing that you need to remember is if you have a UX or product design experience, highlight that in your resume. List the impacts your role made on the products in the company by using action verbs. If you don't have design experience, then focus on your education, the boot camps, your college degree, or your self-study. You can add personal projects as experience, and then you gotta have a killer portfolio as well. And again, use action verbs when possible. For example, even when it's a personal project, you can say that I ran discovery workshop, I ran usability testing with 6 participants, or I built prototype for A/B testing consisting of 80 different screens, things like that. The next one is be honest about your experience or the lack of it. When you're looking for your first design position, either as a new college graduate or someone who's transitioning from a different field, you don't need to hide it. Focus on transferable skills that are highly sought after in the design industry, such as communication, teamwork, reliability, time management, and writing skills. You gotta mention the specifics and how the skills that you used in your past roles are actually an advantage, how you can apply those skills in your new job. Skills might overlap more than you think. The next one that you gotta remember is you gotta use metrics and numbers for the achievements. You need to show that you know how to measure the success of your work and the impact of the project. For example, you can talk about NPS. The redesign of the login flow increased the NPS score from 3 to 6 within 3 months. In your summary, be specific. What I mean by that is if you would like to work in enterprise UX, then just say that. If you rather focus on mobile native application design, you need to explain that. If your passion lies in accessibility, then write that down in your resume. If you want to transition into a more research-heavy position, include that in your resume. Don't be verbose with your resume. Be concise and succinct when you explain your accomplishment and your skill set. And you can highlight words like using bold text. So just draw people's eyes to certain words. No one has time to read a resume, so you gotta explain the most impactful things that you accomplished in your previous roles. And then support your statement with a metric. Try to be specific. So if you say increase the number of sign-up by 50%, what would be better is if you would be more specific. It's very hard to believe that it's exactly 50%. So if you say increase sign-up by 48%, that's much more believable. But don't lie. If it's really 50%, then of course you can leave it there. Start with a strong summary statement that showcases your expertise in UX design and value you can bring to the company. List the professional experience in a reverse chronological order. For each position, you gotta include the name of the company, your job title, and the dates you worked there. And don't forget to quantify your accomplishments. In the bullet points under each job, focus on specific achievements and accomplishments that demonstrate your UX design skills. You can include any relevant education and certifications certification you have related to the design field. Use specific, powerful, and industry-related keywords throughout your resume to make it more likely to be found by employers using ATS. And you must proofread your resume before sending it. So you gotta make sure that your resume is free of grammar and spelling errors. So overall, a great design resume is well organized, easy to read, and focusing on your skills and achievements and experience in a way that is relevant to potential employers. Thanks for joining me today. I really hope you find this video helpful. Let me know if you follow the tips in this video. Let me know how you go with your job application and what you want me to cover next. I wish you best of luck in your job search. Bye.